Once Ron's Facebook profile was set, he started adding friends. People he knew from the factory, old friends from his Marine days, even some distant relatives, all found a place in his growing digital social circle. Each new connection brought a sense of satisfaction. He was no longer the old Ron stuck in his monotonous life. He was now Marine Shooterone, 111, reconnected with the world. Amidst the familiar names and faces, Facebook's algorithms suggested a profile that stood out. A woman named Lisa, young and radiant. Her smile captivating. She was in her mid-20s, the same age as Ron was in his profile picture. He hesitated for a moment, his cursor hovering over the Add Friend button. "What's the harm?" he murmured to himself, clicking the button. The friend request was sent. His heart fluttered slightly, a feeling he hadn't experienced in years. To his surprise, she accepted his request within minutes. A notification popping up on his screen. Ron felt a thrill running through him. His curiosity piqued. He clicked on her profile. There wasn't much available to view. Privacy settings keeping most of her life hidden from non-mutual friends. But he found himself entranced by her profile picture, her bright smile. On a whim, he decided to send her a message. "Hello, Lisa. It's nice to meet you. I'm Ron." The message felt neutral enough, friendly but not overstepping any boundaries. He hit send, feeling a strange mix of excitement and apprehension. Seconds turned into minutes, but soon enough, a reply notification popped up. "Nice to meet you too, Ron." Lisa's reply was casual, welcoming. A simple conversation started, discussing generic topics like the weather, hobbies, and eventually leading to deeper subjects. Lisa was studying for her master's degree in literature, and Ron found himself captivated by her eloquent and passionate views about her studies. Night fell outside as Ron sat in the glow of his computer screen, lost in this unexpected connection. He didn't notice the hours passing by as he chatted with Lisa, each message from her igniting a new wave of excitement in him. It was a feeling he hadn't experienced in a long time, a thrill he didn't know he was missing. This new connection, this young, beautiful woman on the other end of the chat, gave Ron a sense of anticipation, a fresh change from his mundane life. He found himself eagerly waiting for each of her responses, his heart pounding each time a new message notification appeared. Thus, the unexpected connection began. As Ron continued to chat with Lisa, a newfound energy coursed through his veins. It was as if this online interaction had reignited a spark within him that had long been dormant. Every ping of a new message made his heart leap. He found himself laughing at her witty remarks, his eyes growing wide with interest as she shared tales of her studies and dreams. Eventually, the conversation began to wind down. Lisa had an early class the next day, and Ron had to prepare for another shift at the factory. "All right, Lisa. It was nice talking to you," he typed, a hint of reluctance in his fingertips. "You too, Ron. Good night," she replied, her response lighting up the screen before it went silent. Ron leaned back in his chair, his heart still racing from the exhilarating exchange. His eyes flicked to his reflection on the darkened computer screen. For the first time in a long while, he liked what he saw, a younger, more vibrant version of himself staring back. As he shut down the computer and headed to bed, his mind was alive with thoughts of the evening's events. His life at the glass factory seemed a million miles away. He realized that he was smiling, a genuine smile that sprung from a feeling of youthfulness and excitement. Before drifting off to sleep, Ron took one last look at his reflection in the mirror, his newly dyed hair and fresh haircut accentuating his youthful features. He saw not the aging factory worker, but the man who had spent the entire evening captivating a young woman with his words. It was a transformation not just on the outside, but on the inside as well. Marine Shooterone 111, as Ron had come to think of himself, was no longer just a character on a social media platform. He had become a symbol of Ron's rejuvenation, a beacon of his newfound excitement for life. As he closed his eyes and surrendered to sleep, he couldn't help but anticipate the thrill that the next day would bring. This was just the beginning for Ron, a portal into a digital world that promised the exhilaration of new connections and a sense of relevance in the evolving era. And as sleep finally claimed him, Ron knew that his life would never be the same again. At the glass factory, where scorching heat mingled with the sound of grinding machines, Troy was a sight to behold. Standing tall and sturdy, his ebony skin glimmered with sweat, muscles straining against his uniform as he deftly maneuvered through his duties. His age was hard to guess, his face youthful, yet his eyes held a depth of wisdom that suggested years beyond his mid-20s. His dreads, tied back neatly, and his broad, warm smile made him popular among the factory workers. He carried an air of charisma that made people naturally gravitate towards him. Troy worked at the station next to Ron, and over the years, the two had formed a friendship based on shared hours and the solidarity of labor. Despite the significant age difference, they found common ground in the monotony of their work and the love for the NF. "Hey, old man," Troy would often call out to Ron, his voice booming over the cacophony of machinery. It was a term of endearment laced with teasing respect for Ron's seniority. "Still got more energy than you, kiddo," Ron would retort, winking at Troy, before the two would burst into laughter, their camaraderie a constant in the rhythm of the factory. Yet, beneath their jovial interactions, there was a palpable difference in their outlooks. Ron often caught Troy looking beyond the factory walls, a longing look that suggested dreams bigger than the small town they were in. In contrast, Ron had accepted the factory as a fixture of his life, his dreams replaced with a sense of resigned complacency. Their friendship was an unspoken agreement of understanding, a mutual respect for each other's space and ambitions. They were as different as two people could be, yet in the shared moments at the factory, they were just Ron and Troy, two men standing side by side, their lives intersecting amidst molten glass and grinding machines. Little did they know, this camaraderie would soon be tested by the unfolding events in their lives. On one ordinary Tuesday, Ron decided to share his newfound excitement with Troy. As they took a break together, Ron, with a secretive grin on his face, beckoned Troy to sit beside him. "Guess what, kiddo?" Ron said, his eyes twinkling with suppressed excitement. "What's up, old man?" Troy replied, leaning back on the factory wall, a bottle of water in his hand. "I met someone," Ron announced, unable to keep the satisfaction from his voice. Troy's eyebrows rose, and he nearly choked on his water. "What? You mean like a lady?" "Yeah," Ron chuckled, rubbing the back of his neck in mild embarrassment. "Met her online." Troy was silent for a moment, his eyes wide with surprise. "But," Ron shrugged, dismissing Troy's concern with a wave of his hand. "It's not like that. It's just chatting." Troy frowned, taking in Ron's nonchalant attitude. The Ron he knew was a decent, hard-working man, not the kind to venture into such territories. "Ron," Troy started, his voice filled with uncertainty. Again, Ron shrugged, a sheepish grin on his face. "Well, not exactly." The revelation hit Troy hard. It was one thing to hear about Ron's new friend, but entirely another to realize he was keeping it a secret from his wife. This was not the Ron he knew, and Troy felt an unsettling concern creeping into his heart.